This is the video for Accelerated Geometry on Section 12-3 for Geometric Series. The key vocabulary is what is a geometric series, and the essential question is how do you find the sum of a geometric series? Just a review of some things that you did in the past. A geometric sequence is the ratio of any two consecutive terms as a constant r, which we call the common ratio. R can be found by taking a term and dividing it by the previous term. And again, we'll do some reviewing of this in just a second. And the formula to write the rule for a geometric sequence is a to n equals your first term times your r raised to the n minus 1. So first thing, we're just going to review on how to tell if a sequence is geometric. So if we're looking at the if we're looking at the sequence here, and we want to see if it's geometric, it says that r equals a of n divided by a of n minus 1. And I like to start my furthest way out and work my way in. So I can start with saying 64 divided by its previous term is 32, which gives me 2. 32 divided by its previous term is 16, which is also 2. 16 divided by 8 is 2, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. So is this a geometric sequence? And to that it is yes, and our r would equal 2. On example 2, we would have 21 over 17, which we do not round the decimals, leave them exactly as they are. So this would be 1.23529, and you can keep going. Then if you have 17 over 13, that would give you 1.30769 and so forth. Since these are not equivalent to one another, this is not a geometric sequence. Example 3 asks us to write the rule for the sequence. So the formula is a of n equals a of 1 times r to the n minus 1. So first thing we need to know is what a of 1 is. So we're going to look, and a of 1 is our first term. So I know a of 1 equals 1. And we're going to find r. So r is equal to 1296 divided by 216, which is going to equal 6. And again, you could do 216 divided by 36, 36 divided by 6, 6 divided by 1. All of them give you r equals 6. So if I plug that back in, we have a of n equals 1 times 6 to the n minus 1. The geometric series is just the sum of the terms for a finite geometric sequence. The formula to find the partial sum for a geometric series is S of n equals a of 1 times 1 minus r to the n all over 1 minus r. So in this case, we need our first term, and we need to know r, and we need to know how many terms there are in order to find the sum. So in example 4, first thing we're going to remind ourselves is that general rule for a geometric sequence is a of n equals a of 1 times r to the n minus 1. So if you notice in this one that's written in summation notation, which is the capital sigma, where this is telling you your first term, this is telling you where it's ending, and this is your rule. So if you remember that your rule is just a of 1 r and then n minus 1 or t minus 1, whatever letter they're using, you can see that you already know your first term here, which is 3. You already know r, which is 2. The only thing you need in order to find the sum is to know how many terms there are. Well, between 1 and 5, so you have your first term, second, third, fourth, fifth, that makes a total of 5. So if I plug that in my formula, the sum of the first 5 terms equals 3 parentheses. I'm going to put another set of parentheses for the top, so that's going to be 1 minus parentheses 2 to the 5th all over 1 minus 2. Now, if you put the parentheses just like I have it here into your calculator, you can type it in your calculator exactly like you see it. Otherwise, you might want to break it up. Do 2 to the 5th, then do 1 minus 2 to the 5th, then take that number and divide it by 1 minus 2, and then multiply by 3. But the answer you should be getting will be should get 93. So the sum of the first 5 terms is 93. Second says find the sum of the first 15 terms for the series. So I know that a of 1 is 5. I know that n is 15 because it tells me in the problem. And I need to know r. So in this case, r would be 80 divided by 40, which is 2. So the sum of the first 15 terms equals the first term, which is 5, times 1 minus r to the n over 1 minus r. And if we type this in our calculator, we will get the sum of the first 15 terms is 163,835. Let's look at some word problems. It says an online video game tournament begins with 1,024 players. 4 players play in each game, and in each game only one winner advances to the next round. How many games must be played to determine the winner? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make note that I'm going to let n be the number of rounds. Well, if I start with 1,024 players and it tells me that there's 4 in each game, that means the first round would have 1,024 divided by 4, which would be 256 games going on. Then I also know that R has to be 1/4 because in each round, each round that they play, only one winner advances from each set of games. So if 4 in each and only 1 advances, then each time only 1/4 is moving on. So next thing I know is if I think about the general rule, I have a of n equals a of 1 times r to the n minus 1. A of n is what I'm looking for, and it tells me that I want to know how many to determine the winner, which means ultimately you only want one person left over. So the number of people playing would just be 1. Your first term we said was 256. The r we said was 1/4. So I'm going to divide both sides by 256. So that gives me 1 over 256 equals 1/4 to the n minus 1. Now what you're going to ask yourself is, if you notice the numerators here are the same, but look at the denominators. 4 to the what power is 256? So in your calculator you can start doing 4 squared, 4 cubed, 4 to the 4th, 4 to the 5th, so forth. And when you do that, you will find out that it is 4 to the 4th. So you can rewrite 1 over 256 as 1/4 to the 4th. Well, once you have the common base, all you got to do is look at the exponents. So now we have 4 has to equal n minus 1. So I'm going to add 1 back over. That gives me 5 equals n. So there has to be a total of 5 rounds for there to be a winner. But that doesn't tell me how many games they have to play. So now I need to find the sum of 5 rounds. And remember, S of n equals a of 1 times 1 minus r to the n over 1 minus r. So our first term was 256. It's going to be 1 minus r is 1/4 to the 5th. Again, when you have the fraction, you probably want to put the fraction itself in parentheses as well, over 1 minus 1/4. And if you type this in your calculator exactly like you see it, so make sure you put all the parentheses that you see that I have, you should get 341. So the answer to the question, how many games must be played to determine the winner? Your answer would be 341 games. Example 7 says a 6-year lease states that the annual rent for an office space is $84,000. The first year and will increase by 8% each additional year of the lease. What will be the total rent expense for the 6-year lease? Okay, so we know then the first year, so our first term would be $84,000. Then it tells you that each year it increases 8%. So if you remember that your rate is really going to be 1 minus or plus your interest. So in this case, 8% would be 0.08. So our R here is 1.08. And then 6 years tells me that N is 6. So the sum for the first 6 years would be 84,000 times 1 minus 1.08 to the 6th all over 1 minus 1.08. If we type this in our calculator exactly as you see it, you should get 616,218 and 4 cents is how much they would pay over the 6 years. Last example, try this one for yourself. It's just like example 6. So pause the video, try it for yourself, see if you understand it, and then come back and watch the video to see if you have it right. So the first thing we're going to start with is I'm going to let n equal the number of rounds. Players go until there's one winner, and if you know that in tennis there's 2 people playing at a time here. So if there's 2 people playing at a time, then in our first round we would have 128 divided by 2, which is 64. And that also tells me that R equals 1/2 because if 2 people are playing and only one's advancing. So we have our rule is A of n equals A of 1 times R to the n minus 1. So our goal is to only have one person left over. The first term was 64. R is 1/2. Divide, that gives me 1 out of 64 equals 1/2 to the n minus 1. So my calculator, 2 to what power is 64 and you find out that 2 to the 6th is 64, so I can rewrite that as 1/2 to the 6th equals 1/2 to the n minus 1. So since we have the same base, we can just set our exponents equal to one another. So we get 6 equals n minus 1, so 7 equals n. So that tells me I need 7 rounds, but it doesn't tell me how many matches. So then we have the sum is a of 1 times 1 minus r to the n over 1 minus r. So the sum for 7 rounds would be 64 times 1 minus 1/2 to the 7th over 1 minus 1/2. Again, make sure that we put our fractions in parentheses. And if you type it in exactly like you see it on my paper or on this thing here, make sure you put the same parentheses that I have. You should get that this comes out to equal 127. So the answer to the question, how many matches must be scheduled in order to complete the tournament, it's going to take 127 matches.